Right.
Well, we're not ready.
Ready?
Are you ready?
After 5, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to Let Me Tell You Sundays. Every Sunday at 9 o'clock, but really 9:30. And we welcome back to the studio this week after 2 years away. It's Tawab. Welcome back, Tawab. How you doing?
Thank you. Isn't the point of radio that it's only your voice that matters, not how you look?
I know, but we live in the YouTube generation now. So we're live on radio and we're live on YouTube, as you will see if you are tuning in. And the number, as always, Imran, if you're listening, and anyone else who gets to phone us up, is 01189 660 382. And if you want to text the show, just text me. Probably somebody knows me anyway. And we will be Skyping as well on the Skype account. That is oneummahfm, O-N-E. That's the word one spelt in letters. And we'll be taking a few calls. So where are we going to link up with live?
I think we may go to Iraq. And she tried to call the show earlier when we were supposed to start on time. We might go to Serbia if we're lucky.
Okay.
We might go to the US. Yeah, everywhere.
We'll be going international very shortly, talking about the Syrian refugee crisis 5 years on. Rob, where have you been recently?
Recently I was in Lebanon with my dad and brother again. Well, actually, last year we were in Jordan, where my brother and I filmed a documentary on Syrian refugees.
Remind the listeners and viewers, what is that documentary called?
Waiting at the Door.
Okay.
And it could be found at youtube.com/trueintent.
Okay.
Definitely watch that.
Waiting at the Door.
Have you seen it?
No. I keep meaning to watch it.
It's only 20 minutes, and it recently won an award. So my dad was there on a medical mission in Syria. He was he was going from every single day. We were going to a different camp where they would get all the children together in the school for the camp and treat the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, my brother and I were going to walking throughout the camp and actually sitting and talking to people. We weren't, because we're not dentists, so we can't really help them out with that. And I mean, it breaks my heart to say that it just seems even worse, the situation now, 5 years on. And there was people there that were only there from a week ago.
Caller.
Oh,
Okay. Call it on Skype?
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to a Skype call. Welcome to Let Me Tell You Sundays. Who is this?
Hello? Hi, Alia. I recognize your voice. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Erbil, Iraq.
Okay. And what are you doing there exactly?
So I work for an organization. It's called the International Organization for Migration, and we mostly focus on working with the displaced Iraqis that are, as a result of the crisis right now, living all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, we have about 3.3 million Iraqis that are displaced, and so in addition to the number of refugees that are seeking refugee, there's also a crisis within the conflict. So that's kind of the organization that I work for and what I do.
Elia, how are you doing? This is Julian, and thanks for linking up to us. Just a question about the difference between an internally displaced person and a refugee. The displaced people, are they Iraqis that have just moved from a different part of Iraq?
Yes, so how it works is that basically there are different conditions also that
Okay.
So a refugee also has international standards that protect it, and as an asylum seeker, has certain rights and acknowledged guidelines and protocols that are provided to kind of protect and ensure the human rights of that population. An internally displaced person is still within the boundary, the national boundaries of its own country, and thereby is not technically eligible for those same rights that a refugee is internationally provided and internationally acknowledged for. It's not to say that internally displaced persons are extra ill-treated, or to say that the government wrongs them per se because of their status and their situation, but that it is the government's responsibility first and foremost to protect and care for internally displaced persons. They can be displaced from one, how would I try and explain it? It would be a displacement from one governorate or county into another governorate or county, or if you're thinking about the United States and how it would be comparable, it would be like somebody who's displaced from New York now living in Kentucky,
So,
or Boston.
Erbil is a Kurdish area. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is
So
it
it's in
like
the
an
north,
autonomous region?
Yeah, it's in the Kurdish region of Iraq.
Okay. So the people that are displaced there, are they Arabs from other parts of Iraq, or are they Kurds, or a mix, or
So it's a
what's
mix.
the
So you
ethnic
have
background?
the ethno-religious breakdown is quite diverse. You have Sunni Arabs that are displaced from areas of the country that are currently in conflict with ISIS. But you also have a lot of Turkmen, you have Shabak, you have
Yazidis, I presume you hear a lot about Yazidis.
Of course, you have a lot of people that were displaced because of this conflict with ISIS, and how these populations were quite a minority population and one that was targeted. So a lot of that population has also fled up to the Kurdish area, but there's displacement throughout the entire country.
Okay.
So the center and the south of the country also carries quite a few. Houses a lot of displaced persons.
I'm just wondering, you mentioned like crisis a couple of times. So like, what exactly is the crisis? Like, do you think what's happening in Syria is impacting Iraq? And then secondly, I don't know, you wrote a paper about the role of gender that has to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would call it a crisis because it's kind of, it's evolved. We call Syria the Syria's crisis for a reason, because it's been now 5 years and there's a very limited end in sight currently, and the situation has created so much displacement and so much pain, and Syria and Iraq at some stage and at some point became quite an intertwined conflict. And so when the rise and the development of ISIS and this idea of, or ISIL maybe is the right word when talking about its expansion between Syria and Iraq, it really has now evolved into this situation where there are constant ideas at this point to try and break that border between Syria and Iraq, which they have managed to do. So movement and flow between the eastern part of Syria and the western part of Iraq are now continuous, and that's really where the fighting begins. So we kind of we calculate and we start counting the number of displaced persons since 2014, at the beginning of 2014. And that's what we consider this most recent conflict. Obviously, Iraq has a long history of conflict and war and that in itself also created a lot of displaced persons that are still displaced to this day. So people from 2003, people from 2006, 2008, as it went through a series of war and then sectarian violence.
Elliot, would you say 2003 is what really sparked this off? Because I know Iraq had conflicts before that.
Of course, the dynamic completely changed, right? The political dynamic completely changed, the vacuum of power, the lack of what happened after. So yes, the 2003 was the beginning of a lot for this country, and really the deterioration that we are in the middle of right now.
If only someone had told them there were no weapons of mass destruction, all this could have been prevented.
Right, but the conflict and the war, I mean, it was going to happen regardless of whether there was or there wasn't. Right?
Well, we'll find out because there's a caller on line 1. Are you willing to speak to a member of the public?
Sure.
Here we go. Let's see who this is. Yasser, put them on. Hello, welcome to Let Me Tell You Sundays. Who might this be? Aha. Good evening, Imran.
Yeah.
Imran, you're through to the studio. I've got Thawab with me, and I've got Aliyah on the line from Iraq. Anything you want to know about the migrant crisis? I know you're about to go to Pakistan yourself.
Yeah.
Is that to kind of cancel it out a little bit? Even the numbers up?
That's so rude.
I'm joking, Imran. How you doing?
No, I'm good.
What do you think about all this chaos with refugees coming from all different countries and turning the world upside down? What's your take on it?
I feel sorry for them people because of what their country treated them, like ruined all their accommodation and ruined all their life. I feel really upset about that. So like about all that.
100%.
If their own country is destroying them, they should help one another, not destroy their country.
Yeah.
So I don't feel happy about it. It makes me upset when they destroy a nice country.
Well, when's the last time you were in Pakistan, Imran?
Last time I went since 2013, bro.
Okay, so you're going back after a few years. Do you know if there's many refugees in Pakistan coming from Afghanistan?
Yeah, there is plenty of refugees there. Yeah, there's they went last 2 months. My dad, we have to give money for charity, so we give all to the poor people in the country there.
Good for you, Imran. Bro, we're going to have to move on because we've got a lot of calls to get through. We've got a lot of Skype calls to get through.
Rizzy says hello to you, yeah.
All my best to Rizzy as ever, and I hope your auntie is getting better.
Yeah.
Shalaka. Okay, Imran. You take care, my friend, and do be in touch before you go away.
Rizzy came from Iverson.
Yeah. How's he doing?
Yeah, he's good, mate. You know his wife and the kids.
Send my best to all the family.
No, I will, bro.
Thank you, Imran. Take care, my friend.
All right.
All the best.
Bye.
Thank you.
Aliyah,
you still with us?
Yes, I
Good.
am.
The technology works. Yeah, that's a good friend of ours, friend of the show, regular caller, contributor. He's off to Pakistan. I read recently, I might be mistaken, that Pakistan has the biggest number of refugees. Is that the biggest refugee population?
I'm not sure about
in one state, or it's pretty big anyway, if not the biggest.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but I do know it does have a lot of refugees, and it does have quite a significant internal displacement situation as well, because of what happens in the north of Pakistan, and really so there's a lot of internal displacement also.
That's why I think it's important to define what exactly we mean by displaced, because those displaced people won't come up on a statistic about refugee numbers, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so they don't come up on refugee numbers,
Yeah.
but what we do is, and this is something that IOM, the International Organization for Migration, has really taken at a global level to kind of do in as many countries as possible that we can. And it's called the Displacement Tracking Matrix. And what we do is we calculate specifically internal displacement. And quite often we provide the national figures and numbers that are used for the humanitarian response. So this is the department and the division that I work for specifically. I work for the displacement tracking matrix. And what we do is that in different countries, it works with a different methodology on how we collect the data and the information. But primarily in Iraq, we have about 138 field staff that live and are from different areas of the country, and they have over 7 to 8 years of experience in collecting information and having relationships with key inform.
Hello.
Alia, we lost her?
Yeah, so we've lost Aliyah, but we've gained someone. The children in the background. 1 second, caller. I think that's Akram, is it?
Yeah.
Recognise this. Hello. 1 second, Akram. We'll be with you. We've rudely cut off Aliyah.
Is it possible to add her to
Can
the
we
call?
merge?
One second.
Okay, Yas can deal with it. If you just tuned in or clicked on the YouTube link, welcome. It's Let Me Tell You Sundays. We've got Thawab here. We're talking the Syrian refugee crisis, but we're also going to Iraq and talking about internally displaced people. What is the difference? And we've spoken to Imran about Pakistan. Yas is about to get us a caller. I had a question from Mo Ali. What about Libya? When are you doing that? Well, would you care to do a show on Libya one day?
Oh.
Have we got Aliyah back?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome back, Aliyah. Sorry, we lost
Sorry,
you
I don't
shortly.
think I caught the entirety of the question. Is somebody asking about tracking people in Libya?
Oh, I just had a text from someone saying, "Oh, why don't you talk about Libya?" Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm quite qualified to talk about Libya, but Libya
Well, not you personally, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, but Libya is really a very problematic and difficult country. But it has also a similar tracking situation. So we, as the organization, we collect data also within Libya on the number of people and the movement. And so if somebody's curious or interested, I'm sure they can look it up. They're probably going to be better equipped to.
Okay. Yeah. No. Another night we could do a whole show on Libya. I think the texter were just suggesting it's one of the overlooked situations.
I mean, there's definitely I worry that there's an overemphasis on Syrian refugees. Akram, we can hear all the kids in the background.
Sorry.
Can you go somewhere quieter?
Absolutely brilliant.
Who did a good job?
Yeah, who did a good job?
Hello. Yeah, sorry, my nephews are in town. They're driving me crazy. But carry on, Thawab.
Oh yeah,
the line's about to get even busier as we go to another call.
Okay.
Yeah, sir. As we take a live call, I know. Link up. Hello, caller. Welcome to Let Me Tell You Sundays. Who is this?
It's Anissa calling.
Who?
Hi, Anissa.
Anissa, welcome.
Thank
You're
you
through
very
to
much.
Thawab and various other people.
Anissa, how do we know each other?
We met on the Turkey-Syria border.
Ah, and what was happening there?
We were the Matisse students, teachers, weren't we?
Matisse students. Yeah.
Teachers. Yeah, we worked with a small grassroots organization, working with children, and during the day we give lessons at the Al-Falam school in Rayhanbas. So just doing art activities with the children, and trying to engage them in an artistic way.
Yeah.
And that's how we met in a nutshell.
Yeah. Julian, do you remember the slum school?
I do remember Islam School.
Yeah.
I don't remember Anissa. Must have been a different year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I was there in 2014.
Before, so.
Yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. We I did a boxing program with a guy called Jamal.
And how long were you there for?
Just a week, I think.
A week as well.
Yeah. And have you been? When was the last time you were there?
Just last October.
Okay, great.
Yeah. While you were in Morocco.
Something very strange is happening. Sorry, guys, because I'm seeing you on YouTube, and I hear you here, but then I hear you delayed on YouTube as well. So I'm getting a bit confused.
Don't let it confuse you. Just turn the sound down on your computer and just listen to the phone.
My question for you, or I don't know if you have something that you wanted to say anyway. Yeah.
Please go ahead first.
Oh no, I was wondering because you live in London, right? So, and you're not Syrian yourself, and I was wondering what you think listeners or people could do for Syria or for the migrant crisis, or yeah.
The one thing that I'd like to start with is to really emphasize what you said as well, Tawab. I mean, Syria is a tragedy, but there is this risk of, putting all the emphasis, on Syrians as the only refugee group. And I think it's important, that it's not just Syrians, but there's a lot of people in need also with Iraq and so on. But however, I personally, and this is how we met, have been very focused on being quite involved, with the Syrians and also with a group here that is a welcome group for Syrians. So, and when you and I had this conversation actually last time in London, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's very important for people in their own communities to just do something or be part of any other initiatives to welcome these people, be they Syrians, Iraqis, Libyans, these were the ones that were mentioned, but Eritreans, Ethiopians, whoever. I always go on the premise that we're all people. Essentially, family is important to all of us, like having a happy and healthy life is important to all of us, kindness and the good health is important to all of us, so we're all human, and that's one thing that we should not forget, and we should be looking to engage with new people in our society, like the refugees or anyone else, and try to help them integrate and learn the language, and just show kindness and understanding towards them, and also show empathy. The fact that, someone might be smiling in front of you, but that only 3 or 4 or 6 months ago, they may have been pulled out of the rubble of, their house. And I think there just needs to be further understanding, and a lot of empathy to be shown to them.
Yeah, I always say that, like charity starts at home, so you don't have to travel to the Turkish-Syrian border or to refugee camps. It really starts local.
Absolutely. But I think, when you do, like I was recently in Lebanon, and a Syrian, wonderful, amazing woman I met here asked me to go and visit 2 of her friends in Lebanon who were and are still Syrian refugees themselves. But these fantastic women have started 2 initiatives. One is a school, and another is a center for women who have lost their husbands during the war. And I'm not talking just fighters, but I'm talking about just regular people, casualties. And these were really inspiring. I mean, I spent the whole day with them, and we're looking at what to do to continue helping them and with funding. But I know that you yourself also and your family, have spent a lot of time in bordering countries like obviously Turkey and Lebanon and Jordan. But, as you say, there's a different need there by also the virtue of the countries, the refugees find themselves in and their own internal situations. But once they do come here, because a lot of them do come, from, the second countries to a third country, then you can do a lot, in your own little community to welcome them. Even if it's just, I don't know, if you are interested in refugees and anyone else, who is fleeing, not just war, but any hardship, then it's very easy. Even you can invite them over for a coffee or a tea, at the very least. Just to share the basic human contact and connection that they, that has been robbed from them.
Yeah.
So, is it Anissa, yeah?
Yeah.
Anissa, you talk about people that have gone to a second and a third country. What is your answer to the people who say, well, in that case, if they've moved countries, they're now an economic migrant, they're not a refugee, if they've moved from one country to another?
Yeah, that's a very good, a very good question that you ask. In the context of what we're talking about, what I say is, while completely agreeing and myself doing the same in terms of charity does start at home, but putting that aside, I say to them, read a bit, with all due respect, look at the situation in these countries. I mean, if we take Lebanon alone, I mean, coming out of a vicious civil war itself as a country for 20 years, facing high corruption, and so on. There's internal struggles there, but unfortunately, refugees are scapegoated, in countries like Lebanon. So you tell me, would you not want to also leave and try and find a better life for yourself? Absolutely. And when I say you, I don't mean you personally, but like anyone tell me that they would not want a better life for their children.
I mean, family. For example, the people coming across Europe who get to Greece and then they get to Serbia and then they
If I may
get to
chime in here.
Here we go.
Because
Akram's got the answer.
you do pose an interesting question, and just from my
mate.
interviews and conversations with refugees, it's really the last thing they want to do, and it's the last thing that crosses their mind. None of them want to leave home. A lot of them even said we would rather be under airstrikes and shelling than be forced to leave our countries and risk our family and our lives trying to traverse the seas or be a refugee in a tent. So it's necessity and a last resort.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And that's what I've come across as well, you know, with that.
But there must be some if.
But also.
Can I chime in for a second as well?
We'll take turns.
I mean, we're all going to say similar things because we've worked with a similar situation. But I think what's also important to highlight is a lot of these people who are living in camps and settlements and informal settlements, they've been doing it for so long. And if you look at the implications of having no privacy, absolutely no literal privacy for a year and a half, having not proper facilities to use, having very little dignity in your living situation and in the way that you interact, having complete lack of normal things that a human wants, your inability to be naturally intimate with your husband, your inability to have a place to change your clothes, your inability to take off your hijab for like 24 hours a day. I mean, these small little things, we think of them and we think that, oh, they're a refugee or they're a person in a displaced situation. This is the last thing that they, those are luxuries. Privacy, dignity, and safety are luxuries. At least they have a tent over their head. And in actuality, it's really a difficult situation that they're in, and it's one that if they had any alternative, they would really choose not to have it. And so, in the research that I've done, I've really found that the implications of living in displacement are ones that have a different impact for men, women, boys, and girls, and that there are implications for men that we don't consider and think about. There are implications for women that we don't think about and consider. And nobody wants to be sitting up at night doing watch over their children because they live in an unfinished building in the middle of nowhere where there is fighting, a couple kilometers away, or you hear random sounds or noises in the middle of the night and they scare you. Nobody wants to use a latrine that's a hole in the floor with no lighting around it because you're scared that someone's going to attack you or rape you. And so these things are things that we don't really think about, and we say, they have the basics. They have something as simple as something over their head, or they have, an NFI or a food distribution that comes to them every once in a while, and that they should be grateful and that they should go back, or that they should stay in settlements and camps. And we don't think about what our colleague here on the phone, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name.
Julia, if that's who you're referring to.
No,
Akram.
Caller?
Yes.
No, not Akram. Not Akram.
Anissa.
Begins with A.
What Anissa highlighted, which is super important, is why the push to try and integrate and help people find dignity and normalcy in their life again. That's really what is at the essence and at the crux of this, is to try and get people around the world to realize and put themselves in this person's shoes. These are people who were not always poor, they were people that had
They've got smartphones
and jobs, and
as people
they
keep
were
saying.
middle income, maybe even higher than middle income sometimes, and they had expectations of their life. And so yeah, that's all I just wanted to bring up. But there's a report that the lab was referring to that can highlight a lot more of that, but I won't take up any more time. And I just wanted to say thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, thank you so much for calling all the way from Erbil and for the, for doing the work that you're doing there. What's the name of the report for anyone that wants to find it online?
It's called Gendered Perspectives.
Okay.
Privacy, Dignity, and Safety for Iraqis in camp-like settings.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Alia. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Then there were two. Right.
Mhm.
It's just Akram and Anissa now.
I'm not sure if anybody can hear me.
Who's
There's
that?
another person.
Another one. Who's this?
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. Who are we speaking to?
My name is Muhammad.
Welcome,
I'm
Ahmed.
Syrian living in Serbia. If I may start,
Welcome,
I
Mohammed.
just wanted to add a few things.
Go for it. We'd love to hear
First
from
of
you.
all, especially in the media and in this small talk, I noticed that the word refugee is actually used interchangeably with migrants. In my humble opinion, there is a huge difference between migrants and refugees. Refugees, so often they don't have a choice. I mean, they just traveled because they didn't have a choice to stay where they come from. But migrants, usually they have a choice, regardless of if they are economical migrants, as they're called, or regular migrants. So I believe that refugee is the right word to call Syrian refugees, especially. As Syrian myself as well, I wanted to add a few things. I didn't actually have a chance to work with NGOs or help the case, if I may say, but I always took any chance or anything that I could do to help explain that actually Syrian people are not as they are filmed now in the media, because when there is news or something, you see that they are showing just people with strange clothes, strange looks, shouting, and with AKs. And so no, one of the best things that I like about Syria and living there, I spent 25 years of my life there, was the simplicity of people. The open-heartedness, if I may call it, the warm blood. I mean, somebody may say, okay, you are Syrian. Of course, you will not say any bad words. You will not bad-mouth Syrian people. But actually, even Agatha Christie, the writer, when she was in Aleppo, she stayed there while writing, I believe, Murder in Orient Express. She wrote, and let me actually try to find real quick. She wrote about Syrian people that... just a second.
Can I just say something as well? The three things that also have really, really stayed with me, about Syrians and Syrian refugees was dignity, entrepreneurship.
Go ahead, Anissa, we're hearing you.
Hello?
Anissa, go ahead.
Oh, yes, hi. Sorry, no, I was saying while waiting for the gentleman to...
Akram, can you please mute yourself because we can hear you?
Hello?
Sorry, Anissa, go ahead. Akram, just in the
Sorry,
background.
no, I just wanted to take the opportunity while the gentleman is,
It's finding us out, finding an Agatha Christie quote.
Yeah. I was just saying that
He's gone to the library.
three of the things that have really, really struck with me, with all the Syrians that I have met, regardless where, is their dignity, their drive, their entrepreneurship, even in the face of great, hardship, and literally this, I don't know where they find it from, and I'm in awe of it, but this, they're just undeterred, and it's really impressive and it's fantastic. And so I'm just echoing what, obviously the gentleman was saying as well. And it's always been, even the ones who literally have been left with nothing, they still have a smile, they have a warm word for you, and you're supposedly helping, and I put it in big supposedly, and they have this big, huge heart and warmth and love and drive and intelligence, so I have yet to meet someone who's not like that. I mean, it's just been incredible, really, and they're incredible people.
Oh, thank you.
And Anissa, where are you from yourself, if you don't mind me asking? Are you Albanian, or is it? Okay, interesting.
Thank you for adding this, and it's actually half of what the quote is all about. I mean, the quote as read, I quote, gentle, fertile country and its simple people who know how to laugh and how to enjoy life, who are idle and gay. I'm not really an English language specialist, but I know that gay was used as a cheerful.
In those days, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so who are idle and gay and who have dignity. good manners and great sense of humor, and to whom death is not terrible. So thank you for your sweet words. But I believe that it's not my opinion that I lived there in Syria, but I really believe that in general, Syrian people have very good morals, have dignities, and really know how to enjoy life. So for all people who are afraid from migrants and refugees, as I said, because I mean, I don't really see the reason why. I mean, especially living here in Serbia, if there is one thing that I like about the most, they know that media lies. They know that, I mean, they have been through this in the 90s when the media showed them as barbaric and showed them as just people who are killing each other and drunk all the time. So they really understand this. This is what I like about living here in Serbia.
If I may just chime in one last time, and I'm sorry about earlier. My nephews keep nagging at me, but you know what you're saying is so true. And I think one of the projects I'm actually working on here in my city in Buffalo is an analysis of the positive economic impact refugees have on communities. So contrary to what people think about jobs or whatever, they actually revitalize certain areas in our city, in the city of Buffalo. For example, the west side of our city was very decrepit and there wasn't a lot of businesses. But since the influx of refugees, specifically Somali, Sudanese refugees, they have revitalized that community. So actually, it's you know, from all standpoints, humane standpoints, economic, political, every single standpoint, there's no negative thing, and it's actually a positive thing to open our doors and welcome all refugees.
Okay, on that point though, were you to open the doors in an uncontrolled sense, what would that do to countries like Somalia, like Syria, if all their young, able and work age people left the country? Surely it would have a negative effect on those third world countries, never mind what it would do to our economy.
I don't think that would happen, to be honest. I mean, not everybody wants to leave, but I think those who do should have the freedom and the choice to without you know, hindrance. You know, I think we need to really, me and my sister were talking about this, really need to rethink borders and how we treat each other just because some people have a piece of paper.
You don't think that would happen, but if it did, it would have a negative effect, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily. I mean,
if all the work age people from Syria left Syria and came to Europe, Syria would be left in a bad situation.
I mean, that's very speculative.
It's speculative, but I'm asking you if that happened.
Well, then there would be no one left to fight, in a sense. I mean, it would become deserted. But you know, that the thing is, like, everybody has their own, I guess, comfort or tolerance when it comes to you know, war, especially one as ravenous as what's happening in Syria. You know, when you have children. It's not the young, able-bodied people, for the most part, that I've witnessed leaving. It's more so, you know, people with children, people who know they can't risk their lives or, you know, or possibly leave their children as orphans. You know what I mean? And I think it would be even worse if all the able-bodied people die and left just a sea of orphans, and you know, so people need to move. They gotta move. If
you're a refugee, you're seeking refuge while there's a war in your country, presumably with the hope of returning. Some Palestinians have been waiting for 68 years, as we spoke last week. Are we talking about a temporary situation where people come and work, and if it does help our economy, what, for another 5 years, and then they're going to go home? Or are they now deciding, well, I want to be a European now, and because of the war in the Middle East, even when it's over, I'm going to stay?
Yeah, I think as a closing point here, I think that, I mean, just no matter what the outcome is, whether they have to leave for an extended period of time, or of course the ideal situation is peace would come and they would be able to return home.
Isn't that Mohammed? Are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that like a question that you struggled with, like people asking you if you would return to Syria after?
Yes, actually, and but let me, before answering this question, actually, regarding to business taking and job opportunities taking. Actually, some people here, in general, people here are very polite and open-minded. So they get asked, my answer is actually simple. It's actually very, very, very hard question to answer because I look at software too. So if there was a stable connection, I must probably have there was no institution against me. I would have been in the first place, but there's no electricity, no stable connection. So as we look at stable electricity. So for my profession, it needs to be. So personally, I go back to situation. One of the mistakes the other part of this question is for me, the home mentality is where I have people, where I have friends, where I know people. And now home, I can turn out there's no reflection, but I can check my family. So we don't really just so I can't answer this question for you because this situation is going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I've got from every Syrian refugee I've spoken to. But you may not like the question, but it is an important question to ask. No, yeah. No, I understand. I acknowledge that. I'm just asking: would the majority choose to return if they could? I believe the majority would, and I think we need to make that clear because there's a perception between the kind of xenophobic people who probably would ask this question. I'm asking it on their behalf so they can hear the answer, which is no, we're not coming to flood your country and make you become a minority, which is the myth that all racists secretly fear. No, we're fleeing a very real war situation and we'd love to be back in our own country if only we could be.
But I also want to add that there's nothing wrong with people choosing to stay, even if the war is over. And there's nothing wrong with other migrants from different countries. Like, I don't know why we look down on economic migrants or economic refugees. Like, we have to ask ourselves why, do we live in a world system whereby some people, based on where they were born and where they live, they can't, there's no future for them. They can't, if someone can't provide for his or her family, then don't they have a right to go and seek a better place to live and a better opportunity, economic opportunity?
Well, earlier on, we emphasized the importance of differentiating between economic migrants and refugees. I think there is a important distinction.
But I don't think we should shut our doors on one and open our door on the other. I think the door should be open for both.
I think some are more deserving than others.
But I think when we play that game of like who's more deserving, then we're kind of buying into that structure that says some people have more value than others.
But then Pakistan and India and Syria, Iraq would be empty if people did just uncontrollably. I know Akram said I don't think that would happen.
Yeah.
But in theory, it could.
And then, well, we also have to ask ourselves, why is it that all the opportunities are here in Europe and not over there?
Because the distribution of wealth is unfair.
Yeah.
And
so we have to
if we stopped,
and because of, we talk about colonialism like it's something that happened in the past, but it still impacts to today, and we might Britain might not have boots on the ground in India, and these former colonizers might not be there physically, but they certainly controls the situation there and the outcomes there, and people can't have a good life in these former colonies.
But even countries that are not colonies, I mean.
Yeah, so I don't know if people are hearing the callers. Are your headphones up? Okay, possibly.
Are people not hearing anything?
I'm not sure if people can hear you.
No, I was saying even for countries that were not former colonies. That's exactly the point I was going to make as well. When you took the thoughts out of my head as well, Sawa. But take Albania. I won't go any further than that. But we had a very brutal authoritarian regime for 50 years. And once the Berlin Wall came down, once the USSR, dismembered.
Yeah, we're silent on YouTube. We're silent on YouTube also.
Then there was a huge ship that made the news, a Zora ship that sailed with 20,000 Albanians from Albania to Italy. And the Italians didn't know how to deal with it, what to do with it. Obviously, it was a unforeseen situation and something quite remarkable. But these people were fleeing from essentially nothing because there was nothing in the country. Everything had broken down, and they were forced into a new system that they were very, very new and unaware to, which eventually led to the, civil unrest of 97. So it's not just even, and I completely agree with you about, the past and history and colonialism, but even other countries. I came to the UK as a student 12 years ago. I'd like to think I make a great contribution to the UK, society, economy, and everything else. So I agree with you that, it shouldn't be migrants or refugees, although refugees, in my opinion, should take priority because they do flee a current, danger. But other people from other countries are fleeing horrible situations too, even if they may not be getting killed.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Anissa, so much for calling, and I'm sorry you've taken so much of your time.
No worries at all.
I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Lisa, thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you to you guys
for
bringing this up. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. We're going to have to wrap things up soon. Yasha, if you can, thank you. Did have a couple of questions that came through. Why is the Syria hockey team not in the Olympics? There's a question from Mo Ali. I don't know. No.
I've never even heard. That's a bad joke.
No, it's not a joke.
Is Akram and Muhammad, did you hang up on them?
I'm still here, actually.
Oh, okay. And is Akram still there?
Akram, are you with us?
No.
Yeah, well, no, it's a genuine question. Why is their hockey team not in the Olympics?
I don't think Syria has a hockey team.
Okay. Get out to Syria and train some hockey, please. You might even play for Syria. Okay, we're going to wrap things up with Akram and Muhammad.
Muhammad, you still there?
Are you there?
Do you want to share with us maybe just one, before you go, some, I like that you tried to humanize Syrians, maybe like some anecdote or some story from your life there, or from growing up in, your family's in Aleppo, right? So all we know about Aleppo now is destroyed buildings and destruction and war. What do you want people to know about Aleppo?
Well, first of all, the fact that people don't know that refugees are escaping actually from the government bombardment mainly. So actually they get shocked when I tell them that, okay, my family are still there. Why don't they leave? Okay, my father has this mentality that this is my home, nobody will kick me out of it. I will live here, I will die here. So they tell me, okay, with all this bombardment, how come they're still able to live there? Well, the answer is actually we live in an area where the government controls. So the government has no reason to bomb it, bombard it. So that's why they are still safe. And this is what really makes me sad, that people still believe here in general that the government is actually the angel and the government is only fighting terrorism. And again, it's the media game. This is really sad that people still believe that, oh, okay, so they are under the government, so they are safe. But why? They are safe because the government doesn't want to bomb territories that they control. As simple as that.
Yeah.
Other refugees are actually escaping from that way.
Yeah. So you're saying that it's a misconception, that the Syrian government is simply fighting terrorists.
Exactly.
Yeah. And anything about Aleppo besides that, from when you grew up there, from your childhood there? The food.
I mean, all around the world there is the French cuisine, the Japanese cuisine, the American cuisine, whatever you want to call it. But in Aleppo, each city has its own cuisine. I mean, the difference between cuisines from city to city is actually quite big. So one of the things that I miss the most back there is the food as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, so much for calling. Is there anything else you'd like to ask?
I mean, there's many questions, but we'll have to have you back on another night, Mohammed, maybe if possible, and we'll go deeper into some of the issues, and we could talk about how you see the conflict being resolved. I mean, you're saying that the areas under government control are not being bombed. As desperate a situation as it is, and I'm sure you're not going to agree with what I'll say, but some people would say, well, it would have been better if this revolution hadn't happened and the whole country was under a very corrupt, brutal dictator, but not being bombed. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, actually, this is very...
I hate to bring it up, but that's what people will ask you.
It's true. I mean... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I hate to bring it up because I know you probably feel passionate about the revolution, but looking back and 5 years on and the cost and the lives lost, you have to ask, was it worth it? Did the Syrian people go out of the frying pan and into the fire by standing up to oppression?
Well, I don't feel myself entitled to answer this question because I mean, my family, thank God, they are still safe. Nobody of my close relative got killed or something. So it would be really unfair to say it was worth it or unworth it, especially for people who lost their relatives or lost all their belongings. But at the same time, I mean, I was against the government and their political views or their behavior in the country from long time before the revolution. And many of my friends would blame me. Why? Look, he's educated, he's a good person. I mean, the dictatorship is visible, no way to hide it. But when I look at least 300,000 persons got killed, that's the official statements. I mean, I really ask myself, is it worth it?
Yeah.
I actually regret the days. I actually miss the days that we were living normal. Okay, we were oppressed. We were under dictatorship government, but I mean, the many souls that got lost so far, the country that got destroyed, and no result. Yeah. It really hurts.
Yeah, the country was set on fire, very sadly.
I know. Thank you, Mohammed, for calling the show.
Mohammed, I really appreciate your honesty and you giving up your time to speak to us. Like I said, we may do it again. You've got the Skype now. Anytime you see us online on a Sunday night, feel free to drop us a line if you're free.
Thank you
very much.
Have a good evening.
Yes, thank you. Good night.
Hello?
I wanted to...
Akram's still there.
Akram's still there. Who is Akram, by the way?
Hi.
He's that film director.
Syrian American filmmaker.
Yeah,
and now are you also, what else? What is your other claim to fame?
I produced a documentary called Waiting at the
No, so something else. The last thing.
Most important thing in your life.
Oh, yes. Sorry, it's been a crazy day with these nephews, but me and my sister, we also just recently got back from Lebanon.
God, who's your sister? Syrian.
Thawab.
Oh, Thawab.
That's where we were getting at, that you're my brother.
Claim to fame.
Claim to shame. Sorry.
I wanted to just quickly add that based on what Muhammad said and regretting the revolution, and I think like we say that the revolution still hasn't died, and it's easy for us to say as Syrians living abroad and to still hold on to that and to believe in it, but we didn't have to suffer the consequences like my brother and I. We grew up in the US, and I want to bring up, Akram, do you remember our interview with Noor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how she was telling us, she was a part of the revolution in the beginning. And I asked her, like, what made you join the revolution? And she's like, I didn't choose to join the revolution. Like, I was morally obliged to join the revolution when I saw what the regime was doing to my neighbors and to people in my town and in killing people indiscriminately, civilians. She's like, I had no choice but to join and help the revolution and help the Free Syria Army and carry, she's like, I would carry medical supplies into besieged areas. She was imprisoned. She was a mother, and she was imprisoned for 21 days by the regime. And what made her finally leave is just she feared for, the life of her kids. So she had to go. But then now she was telling us, like, and it broke my heart to hear, because where I get my hope for Syria is from what I realize is from refugees who still have hope. But she's told us straight up that the Syrian revolution failed and she's no longer with it. And so when I asked her, okay, like, who are you with? Which side are you on? And she's like, honestly, I'm with the side that wins, whether it's the regime, whether it's Russia or Iran or Turkey or ISIS or the rebels. She's like, whoever wins and ends this war, that's the side I'm on. And I didn't even know how to respond to that. What did you think, Akram?
That was one of the most heartbreaking conversations I've ever had, because we think that like refugees should be so positive all the time and uplifting and have hope. It's like, oh, we almost feel like they're obligated to, because of their circumstances, that they're not a good complete person unless they're hopeful and positive. But they're human and their will gets broken. And revolution, much like seeking refuge, is a last resort, and you only do it when you've been broken down so much. And to see that broken spirit, even though she was still standing up tall and speaking her heart and projecting resilience, we have to understand that this is really breaking the wills and the spirits of the Syrian people and anybody in war, really. And we shouldn't expect them to be so hopeful and positive about it all the time. But in fact, we need to step up, really.
Yeah.
And be there. I guess a shoulder to lean on, someone who's a helper and an assister, and not expect anything from them, really.
Yeah. What did you write about in your article? Like, the tragedy of the revolution is.
Yeah, it's not the stone artifacts that have toppled or the buildings that are hollowed and emptied out. It's the will of the Syrian people. The effects of the damage that's been done will last. Hopefully, we can heal, but it's not. It's easy to rebuild walls, but to rebuild spirits and hearts, that's a challenge that's going to take a lifetime.
Yeah, and I think there's two sides of the coin to it. There's the media that shows Syrians as refugees as helpless mass of people, voiceless, nameless, and then there's our side. We go, oh no, they're really strong and resilient, and they have a lot of hope no matter what their circumstances are. But then at the same time, is either side listening? Actually, are we actually listening to them? We speak for them, but do we listen to them? Do we see that 5 years on, there are broken spirits? There are, we need to end this as soon as possible. Anyway, Akram, thank you so much for calling the show.
Thank you for having me and for highlighting the Syrian crisis, You know, we need to keep talking about it, keep it on our hearts and our minds, and keep all refugees constantly in our thoughts and actions.
You know, it's one struggle, like, really, you know, for freedom.
Thank you, Akram. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And as I say, keep that Skype anytime you see us on Sunday. If you want to drop us a line, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All the best. There goes Akram. Have we finally got rid of all the Skype callers? Have we finally?
No, it was so beautiful to have everyone call and amazing friends like from around the world that all care. Like everyone, I think that's called. I've met in a different context. Muhammad, I haven't even met yet, and you know, everyone's contributing in a certain way. Is it okay if I end with a poem I wrote?
Yeah, absolutely. We love poetry. Okay. Loves it,
okay. It's inspired by the conversation with Noor, who Graham and I mentioned, and I'm kind of embarrassed to read it, but I'll read it anyway.
Here goes.
Okay. It's called A Good Refugee. A good refugee doesn't smoke. A good refugee is resilient in the face of adversity. A good refugee has a lot of hope. A good refugee wants to return anyway. A good refugee doesn't complain. A good refugee will tell you it was worth it for freedom and democracy. A good refugee doesn't own a smartphone. A good refugee will be thankful for the clothes you donate, even though it's the wrong season and not her size. A good refugee smiles at the imam touching her thigh because he had fed her family, and a good refugee is grateful. A good refugee dies 1,000 deaths a day of humiliation and oppression, but is happy because she didn't die just one death from a rocket in her homeland. A good refugee smokes. A good refugee's heart is shattering underneath all the hardships. A good refugee has only a little hope that dies every day. A good refugee is excited about the opportunities that may lie outside her homeland. A good refugee stands up for herself. A good refugee says F your #revolution. A good refugee owns an iPhone 6. A good refugee won't be caught dead wearing the old rags that you sent her. A good refugee's heart is on fire with anger as she is sexually abused. A good refugee dies 1,000 deaths a day of humiliation and oppression and wonders if it would have been better to die just once by a rocket in her homeland. And that's it.
Wow.
And
well, thank you very much.
The last line is inspired by something Noor said to me that, you know, we, in these tents and in this camp in Lebanon, we die 1,000 times a day. And maybe it would be better if I just went back to Syria and one of Assad's rockets just killed me once. And yeah.
What was it called? A good refugee.
Yeah, in case you didn't hear that over. But the idea is that we, in trying to like, in our goodwill, you know, and trying to help refugees, we project about what a refugee is, and a good refugee does this, or a good refugee. I remember one of the refugees was getting interviewed, and the guy interviewing her told her to hide her smartphone during the interview. You know, and
I don't understand why people. Oh, the refugees. How come they got smartphones? Everyone in the world has a smartphone.
Yeah.
The point is, these are like middle class people who had a normal life to.
They're probably like, oh, well, if you're getting aid, you shouldn't be spending 10 euros or whatever a month for 3G. But they need this. They need this to be connected to their home and family. And
a good refugee. And of course, a good fella can write a love letter. That's from another famous fella that Yasser likes.
Okay.
But thank you very much, Bob. But you should publish that somewhere, or at least perform it to a wider audience.
It's on Facebook.
There you go. And well, it is time, I think, to wrap up the show. We've got a couple of texts. One from, it's a text from Helen. Wait, I thought a good refugee didn't own a smartphone, but then she said a good refugee owns an iPhone 6. I think she's laughing at that.
So that was the point. Like,
you got it.
You know, she got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Text from Mo Ali. Can't believe you said the hockey thing. Yeah, I read it out, Mo, and I read it again.
Very offensive, Ali.
Yeah, we were offended by that. And yeah, that is it for another Let Me Tell You Sundays. But thank you very much for coming
Thank you so much for
Sorry
having
for the
me.
delay, as
And
always.
wait, before we go,
No,
I
that's
heard
it.
there's rumors
Yeah.
that
No, that's it. That's all
that
we've got
it's
time for.
over.
That's all we've got time for. Barbara Ali, if you're listening, come back and help me continue this radio show. It's been Let Me Tell You Sundays. We were here. We're gone. We might be back next week. Thinking about it.
We'll see. Bye-bye.
Assalamu alaikum wa
Wa
rahmatullahi wa
alaikum
barakatuh.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was a good show. Except
We're done.
we are.